Greetings, friends. Mark David here, founder of the Institute for the Psychology of Eating. Happy Tuesday for those of you who it is indeed Tuesday in your part of the world. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you tuning in. Today, I'm going to have a brief conversation with you about food and sex. What's the connection? You know, we always say sex sells, and we take it for granted, and it kind of does in a strange way. So we're going to break it down a little bit and go into some of the details and maybe see if we can discover some new and useful information, distinctions, insights, aha moments about this whole piece around food and sex, food and sexuality, because they're always getting coupled together, whether we tend to notice it or not. So what I'm going to do, my friends, is I'm going to take a few minutes to hang with you, visit a little bit, wait for people to come on to the Facebook Live, and then I'll jump in. Hello, Lauren Baldwin from Texas. I appreciate you saying hi. And in fact, if you're just jumping in now, do me a favor. Do that very thing. Hit some hearts, hit some likes across the screen, and let me know where you're from. And this way we can begin the love and begin the dialogue. So, yeah, you know, it's an interesting topic. I'm loving this one, and hopefully we'll discover a few new things about it. Hello, Kim from Cleveland. I appreciate you being here. I just got back from my family for the holidays in beautiful New York City, Brooklyn, where I came from. And what a blast to be able to go back to the place you were born and revisit it again and again and watch it transform. Demi from North Carolina, and it's your birthday. Happy birthday. I'm so glad you're here. Congratulations. You made it another year. Melissa from Brisbane, Australia, I am glad you are here. And Anita, thanks for tuning in from Budapest. Much appreciated. And Rokio, I think that's how I say your name, from Mexico. I'm glad you are here. Thank you so much. And again, if you're just popping on now, we will be talking about food and sex. What is the connection? We're going to make some connections. And in the meantime, I'm just waiting for people to come on. As you're jumping on, say hi. Let me know where you're from. Send some hearts my way. Hello, Miss Wendy. Glad you're here. So, you know, my friends, I also want to let you know that comes this new year, we are now enrolling for our professional certification training, the Eating Psychology and Mind-Body Nutrition certification training. We already have an awesome group of students from around the globe. So this is our 8-month distance learning, professional online training you can take from anywhere in the world. It starts, you know, in the first couple of months of this coming year. So now is the time to check it out. Now's the time to apply. Feel free to email us if you want to learn more at info@psychologyofelating.com. So if you email us at info@psychologyofelating.com, we will be able to answer any questions, get you connected, have you speak with one of our grads or enrollment advisors. It's a great training, and I would love for you to learn more about it. In fact, a lot of what we cover here, a lot of what I cover here, are just some of the distinctions that we cover in our training. Because it's all about helping ourselves. It's about helping each other. Hello, Wendy from Alaska, and hello, Melissa. I am glad you're here. Thanks for coming by. Let's start to dive into the topic of food and sex and look at what we can discover about it. So once again, it's no secret that we use sex to sell. We, the collective we, the advertising we, the marketing we. We've been doing it forever. Thank you for the love, Lauren, about the training. I appreciate it. Thank you, Wendy, for dropping by. So we use sex to sell very simply. It gets our attention. Sex is sexy, sexuality, sensuality, seduction. There's something interesting about it. I mean, that's what creatures use in nature. They are using their sexuality. Animals, organisms are always using that to attract one another. We have ways, we have dances, we have pheromones, we have colors, we have mating rituals. So on a certain level, how about if we just draw a big circle around this whole sex sells thing, and just kind of understand and acknowledge and embrace that sex does sell. In nature, sex is kind of meant to sell. It's meant to sell the potential mate, which then sells evolution, which then, meaning the continuation of the species. So there's a survival piece built in when we bring sex into the picture, because yeah, sex is about the moment, but it's also on a deeper level. Interesting how it's tied into survival of our lineage, survival of the species. So there's a lot underneath there. Now, how do we use sex to sell when it comes to food? I want to point this out. Maybe this is obvious to you. Maybe this is very simple, but sometimes it's just good to say the obvious. That we are using sex to sell in the realm of food and diet and weight loss systems, all of it. The advertisers essentially say, eat this, or eat like this, or eat this diet, or eat this specific product, or these specific substances, and you're going to be in. You're going to be in the in crowd. You're going to have sexy. You're going to be sexy. See, right now you are not. That's the implication. That's what the advertisers are telling us. Right now, you're not there. Other people are there for sure, but not you. So in order for you and me and all of us to be there, we got to buy something. And when you buy something and you eat this thing, according to the images and the music and the implications and all the beautiful poetic images, this is going to change my life, make me happy, and be one of those cool people. So those are the messages that we're getting, and quite frankly, you've been getting them since you've been really young, and my guess is you don't even notice them anymore. They're just like background oxygen. They're always there. You don't notice the fact that you need to breathe anymore. We don't always notice the fact that food, diet, health, and especially the weight loss industry keeps telling us that if you want the keys to the kingdom, then dieting is going to give you that keys to the kingdom, the sexy kingdom. And the sexy kingdom is where you arrive and you get where you're supposed to go. I got to tell you this story. Many, many moons ago, when infomercials were super popular, and they're actually, I didn't even realize this, they're still kind of popular these days, but back in the day, like, they were the only game in town. And it was a huge, huge business. So me and a partner of mine, we had a great idea. Oh, goodness, this was probably 20 years ago. We had a great idea for a very useful, viable weight loss system that was all about insulin resistance, that was working with Syndrome X, and nobody else was talking about it at the time. So anyway, we were introduced to the two biggest infomercial companies, and one of them just jumped on it. They wanted it. So now this is months of negotiation and figuring out with the company. We have to create the product. We have to get the price point just right, because if you're an infomercial company, you work on a profit margin of at least 6 to 1. So whatever you're selling the product at, you had to pay about 1/6 of that in order for you to make a bucket load of money off the product. So it's a numbers game. Now, what happened was, we were getting to the point, we're getting closer and closer to be able to sign a deal, because the big issue was they wanted to keep the price down, and we wanted to have a really good product because it included supplements. And in order for the supplements to work, you need high quality ingredients. And in order to have high quality ingredients, you have to pay more for them. In order to pay more for them, it jacks up the margins, and it might make the product less attractive. So the company was having a difficult time negotiating with us. On top of that, they needed us to have all, you see the picture testimonials of before and after, people who lose all this weight, and first they start out looking like robots, and now they're hot. And so we needed a bunch of those. So we had a bunch of those, and our infomercial people came back and said, yeah, you do have a bunch of those, but we need people who've lost like over 100 pounds. You just have 40s and 50s and 20s and 30s. We need over 100 pounds who start out looking like this but end up hot in a bikini. Now, we looked, we said, we don't have any of those. And the few that we have, they don't want to release photos, so we can't help you in that way. We just don't have it. And they said, here's what the infomercial company said. They said, that's okay. We'll make them up. We'll invent them. I was shocked that they would do that. How dare you? You can't do that. You can't just make up these pictures. Is that what people do? And I remember it as the president of this company, and she is looking at me, and here I am moaning and groaning again about something that they're doing. She can't believe it because in her mind, she's going to make me rich. In my mind, she's asking me to do things that are criminal and wrong. And finally, she looks at me and she says, I wish you would understand that we are not selling a product. We are selling a promise. And she looks at me like, I better get this. Like this is the first commandment coming down from on high. And she laid it out. I was actually happy that she was telling me the truth. They're not really selling something that works. They're selling a promise. And if they sell the promise well enough, we buy the promise. And if we buy the promise, they make money. It doesn't matter if the promise is not fulfilled. So what I want to tell you is that marketing and advertising, probably for the last 70, 80 years, oftentimes is about selling a promise that we know can't be fulfilled. So why I'm saying this is because I'm asking you, whether you're in this for yourself or whether you're looking to help others, we have to understand how we are being communicated to, how our mind is being trained, how we are being conditioned. Wendy says, this is what's wrong, deceptive practices. It's so true. But we have to rise up. You and I have to rise up and be able to see that. So instead of fighting the deceptive practices, which is reasonable to do, and in that moment, to me, I am fighting it by being real and honest and drawing a line in the sand. But equally as important is that we have to understand the people, we're the ones spending the money at the end of the day on the food, on the diet systems, on whatever we're buying. Are you clear enough inside yourself to understand where you're being programmed and your mind is being pushed in a way that you don't really want to go? So in essence, my friends, the punchline is this. Food doesn't make you sexy. Dieting doesn't make anyone sexy. Weight loss doesn't make anyone sexy. What makes humans sexy is being sexy. That's it. We keep thinking that it's something outside of us, and here's the $500 billion weight loss industry kind of shot that they take, which is they're selling you a promise that you think that's going to get me into the kingdom. If I eat this way and then look this way, I am sexy. Right now, I'm not sexy because everybody tells me I'm not sexy because I look like this. My brain tells me I'm not sexy. That's what I'm constantly telling myself. So we are living in lack. And when we live in lack, oh, goodness, we make great consumers. When you're feeling like you're not enough, when I'm not good enough, I'm looking to buy something to make me feel better. When he says, I'm thrilled about the consciousness movement that's going on with body image. The next generation will be inoculated with the right ideas and not be so vulnerable to these practices. Wendy, that's my intention. I hope you are right. I hope we are right about this because that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing right now. That's what we do at the Institute. That's what we do in our training program. We are countering the negative messages out there, the nonsense messages. We're just coming down the road with positive, real, honest, truthful messages that have impact, and then let's let the chips fall where they may. So once again, the very simple understanding that we have to hold for ourselves, and then you hold this understanding for your kids, for your friends, for your loved ones. If you're a professional, you're holding it for your client. You're not buying in to their misery story, their victim story, their upset story, when they're telling you, my life is god-awful because I need to lose this 30 pounds because right now, look at me, I'm not sexy. Now, you know, chances are you've seen men, women, who don't look the typical Hollywood slender, thin, sexy. They're big bodied, they're big, beautiful women or men, and they're sexy. They're everywhere now. In Hollywood, in the music industry, we're starting to embrace big, and we're accepting that. But still, at the same time, even though we're embracing that more, we're still making money off of it, and we're still pretending that sexiness happens outside, but it's an inside job. Plain and simple. So the way we train our practitioners is, as soon as you notice that this is going on in a client, as soon as you see that their promise to themselves is, I will be sexy. Remember, sex sells. And what does sexy mean? It just means I'm going to feel good about myself. I'm going to be an attractive human being. I'm going to draw to me. I'm going to play. I'm going to dance with the world. There's going to be flirtatiousness going on. There's going to be this beautiful exchange that has a sense of fun. That's sexy. But we think it's going to come with a bunch of pounds, and we don't think that it's an energy. We don't think that it's a feeling. We don't think that it's a way of being, and we think we have no power to help create that. Now, here's what's the weird paradox. And forgive me if this is obvious. The weird paradox is, if you wanted to make a commitment to be unsexy, if you say, I want to make a commitment to be unsexy, I would tell you, here's some of the things you should include in your unsexy commitment. Be on a very intense diet. Watch everything you eat. Don't get any pleasure from it. Look at food like it's a bunch of calories and macronutrients and chemicals. Imagine sitting down to a first date with a person like that, who can't hide themselves, and they're busy worrying about the food and looking at it and weighing it and trying to figure out how many calories it is. That's not sexy. And then imagine from that lifeless, boring diet, because you're trying to lose weight so you could be sexy, imagine constantly worrying about, am I going to lose weight? Is this going to be okay? When am I going to get there? And then not only that, but the diet's not very good, so you're not getting any pleasure. You're kind of uptight. You're hungry all the time. You're constantly weighing yourself and looking in the mirror. You're creating an unsexy experience inside yourself and for anybody else around you. But that's what we're being told to do in order to be sexy. How could an unsexy road lead to being sexy? Doesn't work. Tina, thanks for coming by. I am so glad you're here. Wendy said, I did this all my life. Not very pleasurable at all. Takes you out of the now. It's so true. It's so true. And this is happening all the time. And even to the smartest of us, because we are very subject to insecurity. We're very subject to criticism of the body. So, essentially, it's our job right now to decouple food and sexiness. We have to pull them apart. We have to understand that they are not a package deal, meaning you don't have to wait to eat a certain way, to look a certain way, and to magically transform your body into this certain thing that then automatically says you are now sexy, and everybody is going to line up and tell you how wonderfully sexy you are. I mean, like what are we looking for? So really, we train our practitioners to work to help our clients start to be sensual now. Be that part of you now. Learn about pleasure now. Be the you that you want to be in the future. How do you start to do that now? How do you start to strut your stuff now? How do you believe in your stuff now? How do you let go of the stress, let go of the nonsense, incorporate pleasure into your eating, into your sense of being in a body? That's sexy. People who are in their body tend to be more sexy because that's where sexy happens. It happens in the body. So, Melissa says, and that's what society tells us. We have to restrict ourselves in order to get what we want. And, you know, here's the interesting message about that, Melissa. There's certain places in life where it's true. You know, certain places in life, we got to work hard or we have to restrict ourselves. Okay, you want to be healthy, you have to restrict certain foods. You have to restrict certain drugs, maybe certain amounts of alcohol or sugar or things that are toxic to the body. So it makes sense on one level. So the mind already understands, yeah, there's certain things I have to give up if I want to have other things oftentimes. But again, I want to say you cannot expect to adopt thoughts and beliefs and feelings that contract us, that take us away from pleasure, that take us away from dignity, that take us away from self-nourishment, that take us away from being in the body, that in fact insult us, and expect that to lead to sexiness. When he says it's a form of control and oppression of women, it's a form of control and oppression of all humans, not just women. It tends, I believe observation as a male tends to affect women in a very specific way and in a very intense way. The feminine, I find, tends to be more vulnerable to criticism about looks than the masculine. Is that true for all men and all women? No, absolutely not. But what I'm saying is when we are telling this to each other, the women are affected, the men are affected, relationships between people are affected, intimate relationships are affected. It's impacting us all, and it's no longer about, fat being a feminist issue. This is a human issue. We all got to wrap ourselves around this and embrace this. Another way to look at this, is to think about how we're oftentimes checked out of the body. Now, I've talked about this previously on a Facebook Live, being in the body versus being checked out of the body. This is a difficult distinction to understand for many of us if you haven't really played with this before and embraced it before, but I think it's very helpful. Have you ever noticed someone who you say to yourself, that person, he's really in his body. She's really in her body. You might say that about an athlete. You might say that about a person who moves good, who dances well. Just looks like they have a little bit of grace. So what I want to say is there's people who occur as if they're in their body because in a way they're inhabiting their body. There's also people who check out of their body. Have you ever met someone who you just say to yourself, they're checked out? They're not paying attention to what they eat. They don't pay attention to their physicality. They're not aware of their body when they're moving from here to there. Oftentimes we're living here, from here up. The body is like a life support system for the head. So we're living from here up, and the body's carrying us around, and we're busy thinking and worrying and doing all sorts of things. And it's easy to get checked out of the body. And when we're checked out of the body, it can be a scary thing because part of us realizes, I'm not in my body. I'm not enjoying this. Being in your body means you can feel it. You can sense it. Oh, here's how food feels in my system. Oh, here's what it feels like to be standing outside on a beautiful day and having the sun come down on me. Oh, that feels so good. Feelings happen inside the body. Sensation happens inside the body. You have to be in your body to be aware that these things are happening. You have to be in your body to be aware when you're hungry, when you're full, when you're getting full. If I'm checked out, I'm somewhere else, I'm thinking about this, that, the other thing. I'm in the past, or I'm living in the future when I have a nicer body. Technically speaking, I'm not in the body right now. I am checked out. And when we're checked out, it's not so easy to be sexy. Because in order to be sexy, we have to check back in. So John says being healthy, honestly is more related to being active than what we eat, and it doesn't matter what your body type, everyone can be active and exercise. I like to talk about embodiment. It's about being in the body. A lot of time people hear the word exercise, and I'm on this with the people that I work with. When we train our practitioners, we really help them understand the distinctions that people have, that clients have in their minds about exercise, because oftentimes people hear the word exercise, they think punishment. They think I got to push myself. This is something I have to do. We like to make the distinction around movement. Are you moving? Because movement implies, okay, this body is in motion. What kind of movement do you love? What kind of exercise do you love? What makes you feel like, yes, I am happy to be here? This feels good for me. This feels right. What kind of movement, exercise, sport can I enjoy? Can I love? Because when we do that, it doesn't become exercise anymore where you have to go out and do it. All of a sudden, we're inspired to do it because it comes naturally to us. You know, running to burn calories is insane because oftentimes what ends up happening is we never get there anyway. I mean, how many times, you know, have I met people who are using exercise and using calorie measurements? Can you lose weight that way? Absolutely. Is it sustainable in the long term? Does it make people unbelievably happy? I am so glad. Looking back on my life, have you ever heard somebody say, looking back on my life, I am so glad I spent all that time counting calories, changed my life. Yeah, you know, you might hear a few people say that, but in general, no. And once again, it's pointing us to be back in the body. The French, I'm telling you, do not count calories. They don't have the same challenges we have around food, around body image, around weight, around overeating, around binge eating. They have a different relationship with pleasure. Europeans in general, French and Italians, I've noticed in specific, a different relationship with this thing called pleasure. They're accepting of it. They cultivate it. They're not looking for it necessarily from the outside. Here it is. It's in your food. It's in your moment. It's in the fact that you're sitting down. It's in the company that you're with. It's in the music. It's in your decor. The pleasure is everywhere. And I think what happens is when we start to decouple, when you help your clients decouple, food is going to make me sexy. Dieting is going to make me sexy. Looking a certain way, weighing a certain amount will make me sexy. Then what our clients need to look at is, okay, how do I be sexy now? And that's our job, is to help them then begin to take the steps, because as we embrace that now, then if you want to diet, then if you want to shift your food and all that stuff, great. But when you're already becoming the person you want to be right now, so you say, I want to be more sexy from this diet, from this weight loss, from however I'm going to be eating, great, but incorporate that now, because it's an inside job. It is you. Corrine says, yeah, moving my body feels good. It makes me feel powerful and in charge and grateful when I move. Vitamin P shows up when I move, eat, and love. Isn't it true? And it's the simple things in life. What happens is we get so convinced that pleasure is out there. It's for the good people, the fortunate people. It's for whoever. We think pleasure is out there in the distance, in the future, with other people, and we don't realize that it's a life-given, God-given, universally given experience that every infant, you see this, every infant, you let them hang. There's moments, they're in pleasure. Everything is pleasurable to a kid, you know. Well, obviously, once they start crying and hurt themselves, I'm not talking about that. But they're in a natural state of pleasure. The littlest things can light up their whole body. That's you and I. We've got that as adults. We still have that. Yeah, it's just been conditioned out of us. So that's what we're doing. We're learning how to get back in. So you and I, and in this conversation, we are being a collective immune response to nonsense concepts that come into our brains from culture, from the world, from our education, from our upbringing, from so many different places. We're learning how to be responsible for our own experience. We're learning how to be responsible for our health, for our consciousness, for our education. We're learning how to be responsible for our pleasure, our sexiness, for how we want to show up in the world. Oh, don't let anybody you know believe that it's outside of them, that it's outside of us. So, my friends, I hope this conversation was useful for you. I hope it was interesting for you. I really appreciate you hanging in there. I really appreciate you dialoguing with me. And, you know, there's always so much more to say about this topic. I want to say one more time, if you came in a little bit later after we got going, I want to remind you that here at the Institute for the Psychology of Eating, we're now enrolling for our eating psychology and mind-body nutrition certification training. There's a couple of our grads and students are in this chain right now. Feel free to identify yourself, especially if any of you out there in this chain need an eating psychology coach. So we're enrolling now. We've already have a wonderful group of students from around the world. I would love for you to learn more. info@psychologyofeating.com is the way to reach out to us. Thank you for the sweet words, John and Sydney and Sarah Beth. Much appreciated, much appreciated. Melissa and Wendy and Anita, thank you so much for coming by. Thanks for your kind words, Miss Sydney. Good to see you all here. Hey, you know, we're still in the middle of the end of the year action, the holidays, New Year's, everything kind of gaining momentum and switching over. I'm glad you love the program, Wendy. I'm so happy about that. So, my friends, I hope this time of year is just good and solid and powerful for you. Thank you for being part of my world. Thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate your time. If you know anybody who would be interested in this, share it with them. Let them know. Thank you, Miss Demi. If you like this page, every time I get on for a Facebook Live, you will get alerted, or whoever likes it will get alerted. Have a wonderful day, my friends. You take care. Always more to come.